Hello and welcome back to the Fan First Steelers YouTube channel. My name is Andrew. I am the host of the channel. I am also the writer for Fansided. You can see me right up there, and I wanted to do a little preview of the Dallas Cowboys before the Steelers faced off against them. So a lot of people have already written this game off as a win, and while I am in the camp that the Steelers can and should win this game, I do want to make some notes in my ideas and thoughts on what's going to happen in this game. And starting off, for starters, if you don't read, follow me on Fansided, Still Curtain. I've had a lot of fun writing there. Again, the whole idea is that this is a site dedicated to fans writing about stuff. My X's and O's aren't always perfect and on point, and I realize that. I'm always looking to improve upon those, though, so always feel free to leave a comment if I say something wrong, if I make a mix-up, or if I have a misunderstanding, because I would love to see myself grow in that regard, just like I think any fan should want. So, going into this game, Steelers are obviously heavily favored. Most betting odds have them right around 14 points or better to beat the Cowboys by. Not exactly the game a lot of people were probably expecting going into the season. That said, I do have some concerns. So these are the two pieces that I try to write every single week. I like doing causes for concern and bold predictions. And if you read both of them this week, a big important guy that I have mentioned out is CeeDee Lamb. The stellar rookie receiver out of Oklahoma for the Cowboys, or Oklahoma State, Oklahoma, right? I believe it is Oklahoma, yes. So, CeeDee Lamb has been an absolute terror to cover. The worst part is he's been doing a lot of his damage out of the slot and over the middle, and I think that could pose an issue for the Steelers. Now, if you look at his stats, guy has already over 500 total yards receiving. 2 touchdowns is a little bit low, but I'm not overly concerned about that. But he has been an absolute force with the ball in his hands, running routes, being physical. He's a guy that has played a lot better than I think even Cowboys fans expected him to, where he's really stepped in and given the Cowboys a trio of dangerous receivers. I mentioned them all here, but specifically talking about CeeDee Lamb, I think he could easily have the best performance of the Cowboys receivers. I think he should have the best performance of the Cowboys receivers. If you like my little Genesis pun there, Lamb doesn't lie down. Goes back to one of their original albums. If anyone gets that, I'll feel pretty proud of that one. Moving past that, though, so I think the issue that you're going to see here, while the Steelers' secondary has had their share of struggles, going up against what's going to be a rotating cast of QBs should obviously benefit them. But with a talent like CeeDee Lamb, winning over the middle could end up being a bigger issue than a lot of people think. He could have that performance where people are like, dang, the Steelers, almost had a trap game because CeeDee Lamb suddenly had 150 yards receiving and a pair of touchdowns when everyone was expecting the entire offense to just suffer. That said, Cam Sutton should be covering mostly out of the slot, but every so often you see a linebacker get moved onto a guy in the slot, and if that happens, CeeDee Lamb's going to destroy us. It's not going to be pretty, and it's not going to be anything that anyone should want to see. So I would say out of him, out of any of their receivers, he in particular is the one that scares me the most, just based off his style of play. I think his over-the-middle moves will be hard to cover, and I think he could be a bigger issue than a lot of fans expected him to be. So I do have attached a couple of highlights of his. I'll run those through just so fans can see, or Steelers fans that haven't seen a lot of his game can, see his style, see what to expect with him. And again, just his over-the-middle plays, that's what's really nerve-wracking for me. That's what I don't want to see happen a lot. So looking here, you see just his ability to make someone miss. It was a nice little route there, good block, and elite follows in. You can do that against the Steelers and hurt him. Over here, you see him not score, but a very nice route right over the middle. A nice little move again to make someone miss. He is shiftier than he looks for his size. And then the last clip here, it just shows his toughness and competitive catch ability, because he takes a knock there, but he looked. All right, so moving past CeeDee Lamb, again, I think he is going to be an issue. I think something that can sneakily benefit the Cowboys is their rotating QB room. Yes, they announced today Garrett Gilbert is going to be their starter, but realistically, they have 2 other guys that were probably just as close to starting as Gilbert. Pictured above is Ben DiNucci. He started the last week for the Cowboys. But you also have Cooper Rush. Any of them are probably just as realistic options to start. Are any of these options particularly good? On paper, no. Nothing to really worry about in that regard. But with the Cowboys, So we saw something similar to this last year where the Steelers lost Ben Roethlisberger, and then they pretty much relied on two quarterbacks after that, Mason Rudolph and Devlin Duck Hodges. So Ben goes down with his injury against the Seahawks. Mason Rudolph comes in and looks really good for the half of a game he ended up playing. He looked sharp. He looked on point. He looked like someone that could potentially start down the road. But then as time went on, defenses adjusted to him, began preparing for him, and he ended up struggling. He ends up going down with an injury, then all of a sudden, Duck Hodges comes in, and boom, he's on point. He looks sharp. He looks good. And then defenses adjust, react, prepare more for him, and then all of a sudden, he struggles. But the key point here is that for those first couple of snaps that they play, these quarterbacks look good because defenses aren't expecting to play against them and go up against them. So this could be something that low-key benefits the Cowboys. Now, is this going to end up meaning, the Cowboys are going to win? Not necessarily, but don't be surprised if you see someone like Garrett Gilbert, who no one really even knows about, put up solid numbers. On top of this, the Steelers secondary has not been that good this year. The outside cornerbacks have struggled. I would say your slot cornerbacks, Mike Hilton, Cam Sutton, are your best players. Terrell Edmonds has come into his own, but he's still not that great at coverage. And then Minkah Fitzpatrick, as I've written about earlier, he's playing well, but he's not playing like he did last year, where he was this elite shutdown area. A couple times he's been targeted, he's been passed on, and on top of that, he has struggled to make those same splash plays. Again, he's not a bad player, but he is not playing like the great player he was last season. Now, does any of this mean the Cowboys are going to win? I'm going to say no. I really don't think they'll win. I think a large part of that, and again, something else that I wrote about, is that I think Connor has an absolute stellar day. So if you look through his 4-year or just under 4-year career, his best rushing performance came in 2018 against the Cowboys in the second matchup that they played. He had over 200 yards and a pair of scores. I think he does that, if not better, and I don't even think he ends up playing the whole game. I think this game gets out of hand a little bit. The Steelers, rely a little bit more on Benny Snell, maybe even throw Mason Rudolph, James Washington, some of those more backup-type players, allow them to get a little bit more burn in order to preserve their starters once they take a decent enough lead. Regardless, though, I think James Conner is going to absolutely eat. I think he'll see his normal 20 to 25 touch range that we've been seeing him get pretty regularly, but I think he's going to turn that into just an absolute monster day. I think he'll be right around that 200 total yard mark. I mean, he's been playing well this season. It's really hard to deny him that. He started off a little bit slow, but recently he's turned it on. He's been hitting the hole with a lot of power like we saw before, and he's been a steady presence for this team, and it's something that he needed as a potential free agent at the end of the season, and something that the Steelers needed because their run game suffered without him last year. And he's reminding everyone that, hey, I was a Pro Bowler for a reason. It wasn't a fluke. I'm a good player as long as I can stay healthy. And I think he does stay healthy in this game. I think he does get rested a little bit more because of the leads that the Steelers end up taking. But I think overall, James Conner has a really good day. I think you'll see the usual production out of the passing game. I think Ben's still going to struggle with his deep ball. I don't think that's going to change this week. But, I mean, the Dallas defense isn't very good, so I think you should be able to see him exploit a couple of those matchups. I think you should be able to see Connor and Benny Snell and hopefully even Anthony McFarland exploit their matchups. And then for the Steelers defense, I mean, they're going up against a battered offensive line, a quarterback that wasn't on a roster earlier this week, and an offense that does have weapons but has no one to get the ball to them in the form of a quarterback. So I think you see someone like Ezekiel Elliott, despite destroying the Steelers when he played them 4 years ago, I think you see him struggle, put up a similar styling to what you've seen a lot of the good running backs put up against the Steelers, in that 50-ish total yard range. He might end up scoring, but even if he does, I don't think it's going to matter that much. And then, like I said, I think CeeDee Lamb could have a good day, but I still think the secondary does their part in shutting this team down. And I think it's going to be a pretty dominant win for the Steelers. I'd be surprised if the Steelers didn't win, and I'd be very surprised if it wasn't a good all-around win. I know people say trap game, but the Steelers have looked a little bit different this season. So I'm hoping for a good game. I'm hoping for a game that we see the Steelers do their thing, leave 8-0. As for a prediction, I will stick with what I have said, 34-17. I think the Steelers go into the fourth quarter up 27-10. I think they start bringing in some of the backups. You see a little bit more Benny Snell, a little bit more James Washington. I think you even see Mason Rudolph get a couple of snaps. I predicted him throwing a touchdown to James Washington just for fun, and we'll keep that in this. But again, I think you're right around in that 27 to 35 range, and I just sat at 34 as the final score. As for the Cowboys, I think they go into this and they struggle. I think that they have 10 points going into the fourth quarter. I think you get a nice garbage time touchdown to, I'll say, CeeDee Lamb, because I think he has a good day. So he gets a garbage touchdown to cut that lead a little bit, but it's obviously not enough to win, and it's not enough to keep them in the picture. So I think the Steelers leave this one 8-0. I'll be pretty disappointed if not, and I will make sure to try to have a post-game review hopefully up by Monday. Outside of that, that's all I have for everyone today. If you like this video, please drop it a like. Subscribe to the channel if you want more Steelers content. I'm trying to grow this into a community base, so I'd love to see this grow. All of us, improve together, work together, and be able to talk Steelers together, because I think that's a lot of fun. So if you have any comments or suggestions, feel free to comment them in the comments below. You could also always email me or reach out to me on social media. Feel free to follow those social medias. I'll give you some updates on what the channel is doing. If you haven't seen yet, make sure to check out our Madden franchise we're doing. I'm calling it the Secondhand Steelers. Get a little bit of those old players that, played with the Steelers for a little bit. Have a little fun there. And outside of that, hopefully the Steelers have a good game today. So feel free to subscribe, keep in touch with the channel, and as always, go Steelers.